Hey everyone, welcome to Rosales Media for Change, the podcast that helps high school and college students explore different careers and learn from professionals who've been in their shoes. Today we're joined by Mr. Rafael Hurtado, a San Diego attorney who studied in France for a year and had 7 years of French under his belt. He'll share his journey into law, the challenges he faced, and advice for students interested in the legal field. Let's dive in. What inspired you to pursue a career in law? And did you know that you always wanted to pursue law and that this was your path?
I did not. The first time that I became interested in law, I think was as I was going into high school. At my high school, there was this law program that we got to tour before I went into high school. And I wanted to do that, but my mom encouraged me to go into the International Baccalaureate program instead. And I'm glad she did because that program, it's IB for short, the IB program was similar to advanced placement classes. And so it was more challenging classes, helped me grow educationally, and I had more stringent requirements, like I had to learn a foreign language for 4 years, take more advanced English and other classes that the other students didn't have to take. And if I would have followed with the law path at that age, then I don't think I would have been as successful. But I did have an interest in it at that point. And then I once I was graduating high school and looking at colleges, I actually started to get interested in international relations, which I didn't know was a thing until I was applying for college. And so I actually ended up studying international studies at UC San Diego and a French literature minor. So I thought I wanted to go into the State Department, but once I graduated college, I decided to just work for a bit, and I started working at a law firm in San Diego as a law clerk, or sorry, as a file clerk, and that's when the spark to go into law came back.
Got it. That's really cool. And you said you did 4 years of a foreign language. Was that French, like you mentioned, you were looking into?
Yeah, I studied French all 4 years of high school and then all 4 years of college. And so it was a total of 8 years of studying French. I also studied abroad while I was in college. So one school year was in France. So I got to be there for a full school year.
And how was that?
Uh,
Did you have to speak a lot of French, or was it like the program also in English?
I did. I did have to speak a lot of French. At that time, so that was my third year of college. So I had been studying French for 6 years, and that was my seventh year. Um, I had learned a lot, but I had never been to France. I'd never been anywhere other than the US and Mexico. And so it was a brand new world for me. And you're in the city. I was in the city called Bordeaux, and so I had to learn just to speak with the people there when I would go buy food or when I'd go to the grocery store, go to the bank, uh, go to the dentist. But also, I had to take classes with French kids in college there. So that was really difficult because it's taking college courses in French. So by the end of the year, I spoke it really well. I could write really well. I could read. Um, yeah, I learned a lot.
That's really cool. And so you said you took 4 years of French in high school and then also in college. So was there anything else that you took in high school that you would say helped you go into your field in law, or anything that you would advise other high school students to take that kind of gave you an advantage in some sort?
Yeah, in law, you have to read and write a lot. Writing is one of the main forms of communication in the law. I would say it's probably the main form of communication. A lot of people watch lawyer shows on TV and they think you're going to be in court a lot, but most lawyers are actually not in court that often. But they do file documents with court pretty regularly, or you have to write letters to your client or memorandums to your colleagues. So writing and researching and analyzing is very important. So courses like English or any sort of classes where you're reading and writing a lot, those are all really good for law.
Thank you so much. And
Mhm.
what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced in law school or early in your career?
Yeah, in law school, I think at the time, well, I think for me it was that one of the things was that at that level, no one in my family had ever reached that level of education. I did have an aunt who had gone to college and she got an undergraduate degree. Also, an uncle who got an undergraduate degree. But I never had anyone that went to graduate school in my family. And so I started to feel a little bit insecure, maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome, like I shouldn't be here. So I had to overcome that. And that was something that was challenging for me. Law school is also more competitive than undergrad. And that was a new environment for me as well. I'm not naturally a competitive person. I'm more collaborative, and so that I, learning in that environment was also a shift that I had to get used to. And then lastly, I think at the time I was also dealing with just some personal, emotional stuff that I hadn't addressed in my own life. And so having to do that at the same time as learning to be a law student was difficult.
So, as you were going through those challenges, like you said, some more personal stuff, and then, like you said, you were the first person in your family to really go to graduate school. If you could say, give yourself one piece of advice during that time, what do you think that would be?
Well, two pieces. The first one tied to what we were talking about. I think especially if you're Latino or if you're a first generation college student, um, a lot, we fight so hard to get to a certain level of education that it starts to become part of our core identity. And I think that that's a mistake, right? So I if you like don't do well on an exam or if you don't do something as well as you thought you would or you would have hoped, then it really brings you down and you start to feel like a failure. Um, but that's where I had to do a lot of work later and realize that uh, your education is only a part of you, right? It's only something that you choose to do. It's not really who you are. So one thing that I would tell myself, or that I would tell my younger self, is that I learned now is that I'm not a lawyer. I'm Raphael, and I practice law. I choose to spend my time to make money practicing law. But at the end of the day, I'm still myself, right? I'm still the same kid that I was when I was 10 years old or whatever. And I'm much more than just being a lawyer, right? I also like TV shows like Star Trek, and I like music, and I like to go hiking. And none of that changes just because I've become a lawyer, or because I do well as a lawyer, or because I don't do so well as a lawyer. Um, so it's not a part of my core identity, is what I'm trying to say. At the end of the day, I'm still me. Um, and I can stop being a lawyer, and that I would still be okay, you know? Um, the other part is financially. I think, uh, we work so hard to get to a certain level of education, but sometimes we forget to plan financially. And law school and college is really expensive. And so it's important to have a plan of how you're going to pay back your student loans, how you're going to pay for your rent and your expenses while you're going to school. Um, Trying not to take as many loans as maybe I did. I took out a lot of money, which was now paying off. And I wish I would have been a little bit smarter about that. Mm.
Thank you so much. I think that's were some great tips or advice that you would give yourself. I really like that. And so you gave us some advice for high school students on different classes that they should take, like you said, English and writing. But what are some of the soft skills that you think that high school students should develop in their years? And is that something that you had to develop after high school or that you had during high school?
after high school, and it wasn't because anybody taught me. I going back to the personal issues and in law school that I was talking about. Eventually, after I became a lawyer, I went to therapy, and I thought that that was a really great choice for me because it was really helpful, and all it really did was teach me new tools to help navigate life as an adult, and maybe resolve some issues that I I hadn't resolved when I was younger. And when you don't resolve those personal emotional issues, it can sometimes make you be it can bleed into your profession, right? If maybe you're not feeling so great about yourself, you become maybe a little bit angry and you're not as professional as you should be with someone, or maybe you're not feeling as intelligent enough to be in a space where everybody else is intelligent. You think you're not good enough. So all those little things, it's really important for us to do some internal work and remember that we're all valuable and we all have unique skills. And someone's always going to be better than us at something, but we have our own unique individual skills and gifts to give the community that nobody else has. And that's important. And we should have the confidence to move forward. So emotional health is one of them. And then the other soft skill I would say is just be respectful to people. When you're out in the community meeting other professionals, uh, remember that they're humans too, and that they have lives and families, and maybe they're dealing with some difficult things, or maybe they're excited about some things in their life. And be curious about those things, right? Treat them like any other person, and just be respectful and kind. And I think that that will go a long way.
Thank you so much. And so you had a really cool journey and I think very unique. And I was wondering, so in your career, what role did internships or networking and mentorship play for your life? And what
Yeah.
advice would you give to high school students on towards internships, networking, mentoring?
When it comes to internships, I think especially when you're in high school and in college and even in graduate school, I think that's a great time to explore things. So just because it's not an internship in the exact area that you want to be in, don't think that it's not valuable. That's a perfect opportunity for you to go into a workspace or uh, explore a type of work that even if you're just curious about it, it'll give you a couple of months to see what it's like. Or if you admire someone in the community, you'd want to work with them, and they're able to give you an internship, then that's also valuable too, right? You can see how that person works, how that person is a professional, how they manage to fix the problems that they're dealing with in their profession, and you can start to learn a lot from individuals. So it's a great time to explore. It doesn't have to be again exactly in specifically what you want. It can look a little bit different, and it could just be a time for you to see what's out there. Um, when it comes to mentors, I would say I have found it's really important to number one, identify what your values are. So, for example, if you value, I value adventure, right? Maybe try to find people in your community that also value adventure and try to hang out with them, um, and get to know them and learn from them. Um, and look for people that are more experienced and that can share some of their knowledge with you. Professionals are always eager to help the next generation, so you'll always find someone that's willing to talk to you and chat. And lastly, don't be shy. Just because someone may be a judge or a lawyer for many years or whatever, don't be shy. Always have the confidence to go up to them, shake their hand, say hello, and get to know them.
Thank you so much. I think that's really great. And from what I'm hearing from you, so I think you have some good background and are able to speak for students that specifically targeting for this show and trying to reach. And what advice would you give to first gen students who want to pursue law but can feel intimidated from it?
Yeah, one skill that I realized later that most people don't pay attention to is just the ability to learn. Um, you know, I before I went to high school, I'd never been to high school, right? I didn't know what high school would be like. Had no idea what to expect. It was a brand new campus, but at the end of the day, I figured it out because I had the ability to learn. I had the ability to adapt and be successful then for the rest of the 4 years. Same with going into college. I'd never been to college before. It was a brand new city, brand new people, brand new courses. And I didn't know what I was doing at the beginning, but I had the ability to learn. And I did, and I adapted, and then I was successful. So even though something could be difficult like law school and I did struggle at first with law school. That was the first time maybe academically that I started to struggle. But again, I still didn't give up. I still learned and I adapted and eventually I was able to graduate and take the bar exam and become a lawyer. So don't take the ability to learn for granted. It's a really important skill, and we all have it. And so that's something that you can use in your toolbox to go forward and be successful.
Thank you so much. And for someone looking into law, what would you say to them is the best part about being in the law field and the worst part about it?
I'll start with the worst part. The worst part for me has been it can be a very difficult profession. There are a lot of deadlines that you have to meet, and that if you don't meet, can have real consequences, not just for you, but for your clients, maybe for the community. Uh, there could be, yeah, pretty bad consequences if you don't meet those deadlines. So that puts a lot of pressure on you to make sure that number one, you understand what the deadlines are. Sometimes it's difficult to even understand what they are. So figuring out what the deadlines are, making sure you meet them, um, and and on top of that, sometimes you're dealing with people who are in very stressful situations. A lot of times people go to lawyers because they're in trouble in some sort. Either they did something wrong or something bad happened to them, and so emotionally they're struggling already. And so you're also having to help people that are struggling and maybe in a difficult position. Sometimes they'll get stressed out or frustrated. You have to learn how to manage that while again trying to meet your deadlines. And lastly, conflict. I'm not someone who generally likes conflict, but as a lawyer, I've learned to grow in that and be more comfortable with conflict, and now I'm okay dealing with it. But for a lot of people, we don't deal with conflict at school too much, and so that can be a new area to explore. Um, Then the good things are that you get to learn a lot. You are always growing. You're always learning something new, which I really like. For me, that's exciting to always be learning something new. You get to also help. I mentioned the people that are struggling. You get to help them through a difficult problem or get some justice that they deserve. Um, and that's meaningful. It's a great power and tool that we have to come alongside someone and help them through some sort of difficult situation.
Thank you so much. I really like those 2 points. And I'm more curious on this. When it comes to law and actually for like your daily life, how accurate are the shows online like Suits that a lot
Mhm.
of people are encouraged to go into law because of? How accurate are those shows, say compared to your life or to like the average lawyer?
That's a really good question. I don't really watch lawyer shows for for that reason because I find that they're actually not very accurate. In lawyer shows, a lot of times it's just people with fancy clothes and doing a lot of talking, and uh, that's not really what law is like. At least not for me. Maybe for some people, but I doubt it. the not so glamorous part of being a lawyer really is you're in front of your computer most of the day, reading something, writing something. And so if it was a show of a person in front of their computer, it'd be pretty boring. Uh, and that's much of what you do. Other things that I do are I have client meetings. Nowadays, a lot of it is on Zoom or online, like we're doing right now. Sometimes it's in person. Maybe the more exciting parts of it are I do get to go into court and speak with the judge, or I have to take depositions. Depositions are an interview of a witness, and that's when you get to ask them questions. Sometimes they can be difficult questions, and the witness's lawyer will be there, and so sometimes it can get a little. There can be a little bit of conflict there. So those can be interesting moments. But I would say those moments are about 20% of the time. 80% of the time, you're really in front of your computer reading and writing.
Got it. And so, kind of wrapping up on sort of the general idea for high school students listening, what's the one thing that you would want them to take away from our whole conversation?
I would say just again, have confidence in yourself. You're not the first one who, if you have a desire to go to law school, uh, you're not the first one who has struggled through it and still made it through. Um, so have the confidence to go for it, and just find help when you need it. There are people like me or maybe Miguel like you who are willing to help your friends and your colleagues and speak to them and give them some advice. So you're not alone, and you have the ability to go for it and just don't be shy. Like ask for help and yeah, just go forward.
Thank you so much. So, is there anything else you want to share or that I missed?
The last thing I'll say is that I really find being a lawyer very rewarding. It is a difficult job, but again, if you like to learn, if you like to help people in difficult situations, if you are if you're an intellectual and analytical person, I do think it's a really great job, and I would encourage people to pursue it and yeah, and just learn more. And I think that's it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Raphael.